What is up guys, Andy Forest Theme Runner here and welcome back to another video, and today I'm giving you guys my first impressions of the New Balance 880 version 12. There we go, first run done in the New Balance 880 version 12, moderate run, 70 minutes, nearly 10.5 miles done in this shoe. Can't wait to give you guys my thoughts. I'm so happy that we have a new shoe release this year. I've been eking out my novablast, looking for a new daily trainer. There's been a few on my radar. This thing came up and I've always wanted to jump into the 880 lineup. I've tried the 1080 version 10. The 880 I've heard some good things about. I'm going to be sharing my thoughts with you guys on this shoe today. If you're excited, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always in these first impressions videos, we'll start with the tech. So we'll kickstart things by saying I went true to size in this shoe. UK size 13.5. In New Balance, Hoka and other brands, sometimes they go 12.5, 13.5, 14.5, so on and so forth. They don't do a 13. So normally I'm a 13 in other brands like Nike and Asics, but in like Hoka and New Balance, I'm a 13.5. This one fits, it's a little bit snug. Some New Balance shoes are too tight and I have to go up to 14.5, but then that leaves me with a little bit too much room. Thankfully, this one is not too bad. Although my normal full thumb width that I like to have at the end has been reduced to half thumb width. So it's a little bit snugger than normal, but on the whole, I am able to get away with true to size in this shoe. Stack height is unconfirmed. I can't find it. I'm sure it's out there, but New Balance does not confirm it. All they tell us is it's a 10mm heel to toe drop. I'd say at a guess, just by looking at it and testing other shoes, we're talking 32, 33, 34mm here in the heel. And in my UK size 13.5, we're talking about 401 grams or 14.1 ounces. And let's start our way from the heel counter area. Talk about the ankle collar, the tongue, the lacing, the upper, the midsole, dual layer midsole, and the rubber outsole. So this is very much a neutral daily trainer geared up to soak up the miles, hence the weight. And we'll talk about the weight shortly in my first impressions. Don't be put off by it. It is on the heavier side for me. Anything over 400 grams is a little bit crazy, but I did have a really positive experience in this shoe. It's not all roses and, you know, good stuff, but on the whole, I'm pretty happy with my purchase. And let's go through it. You'll see where the weight adds up on this shoe. This is a super plush shoe. When I tried it on, the comfort levels in the upper and in and around the ankle collar were absolutely through the roof. You can just see how thick this is, and it was just like putting on a slipper. Now, the one thing I noticed with New Balance shoes is the build quality is always really good. I tested 4 or 5 New Balance shoes back in 2020. I tested the Prism, the 1080 version 10, the Fuel Cell TC and the Tempo, and bar the Tempo, which was pretty average, the others were really good, and I didn't really test any New Balance last year at all. The one thing that always strikes me with them is they're just so well built. I just feel instantly slipping this on, this is going to be an absolute tank of a mileage shoe. That's how it feels anyway. I think this is going to be a bit of a secret beast in my lineup. It's just going to absorb the miles and suddenly it's going to reach certain milestones along the way without me even really noticing it. So that's kind of that first impression that I'm getting. And as you can see, comfort levels through the roof. Ankle collar area around the Achilles, super cushioned, super padded, especially around the top here. A little bit thinner padding around the bottom, but super plush at the top, very rigid here. This is a neutral shoe, but I'm sure they put not stability features, but there's a lot going on in the upper, which adds to the weight, but also adds to that secure fit. I did actually wonder if I bought a stability shoe when I tested this thing out, first of all, because the upper really kept my foot in place and it didn't move around at all. Certainly didn't notice I was overpronating. Sometimes in very neutral shoes, I'll notice on the playback footage, when I run over the camera, my right foot kicks out. It didn't in this shoe, so it really did hold my foot in place. A very rigid heel counter, very plush. Moving on to the tongue. A medium plush tongue, I'd say not the thickest, but certainly not the thinnest, but super comfy. That coupled with very bog standard lacing system, very normal, nothing spectacular there. Just does the job. It just is super comfortable. This tongue is not gusseted, so it's not attached to the medial and lateral sides. It is just what we would expect to see 4 or 5 years ago, but before the whole gusseted tongue thing, I can't even say it, gusseted tongue thing came into play. I'm going to say the laces, for me, I double knot my laces. They are not long enough to use the extra eyelet chain. I think if you're going to want to do that, maybe in the smaller size, you'll be fine. Don't know if the laces are the same length as mine in the smaller size, but in the 13, where it's got more room to cover, it's certainly not going to get through that eyelet chain there. But I didn't need it, absolutely fine with that, and a little attachment there to keep the tongue in place. And I guess that replaces the gusseted feature. In terms of the upper, we're talking about an engineered mesh upper. So I think the last version was a jacquard mesh dual layer. This is a little bit more simplified apparently. But it is it's a lovely upper, ventilated. They say on the website, I say rather warm and snug. My feet did get quite warm in this shoe. Not something I'd look forward to in the height of summer, but still really comfortable. Feels quite thick, little bit stretchy, reminiscent of the 1080 version 10 with that super stretchy material. This isn't quite stretchy, but it still feels, it's got some give in it, that's for sure. And of course we've got some overlays of the New Balance logo, and that's a bit around the back here, but that's about it really. The upper, everything that's going on up here, super comfortable, super plush, lovely to run in. Dual layer midsole, fresh foam X along the bottom here, top bed midsole they call it. Just from doing a little bit of a durometer test myself, just by squeezing it, I'm gonna say the fresh foam is softer than this, what they call top bed midsole on the website. It feels a little bit firmer in there. I don't know. Again, I checked out the older version. I noticed that has a dual layer midsole. This isn't a new thing for this version, but I will say that I would have been happier if it was full fresh foam X. This is my first time in the 880 lineup, bearing in mind. So if this is a thing that's been going on from version 1, shoot me down, that's fine. I just would have preferred full fresh foam X. But on the whole, you know what you're going to get with fresh foam X: durability and comfort, and then we have a lot of rubber outsole coverage, again adding to the weight. This is something that I will say they definitely could have shedded some of this, because I feel like this is going to be a really good mileage shoe. But I think if some of this rubber had have gone, it would be lighter and a little bit better. We've got some flex, I call them flex grooves here, just so that when you're flexing, the rubber doesn't go over that and stop your foot naturally landing and toeing off. So we've got a flex groove there, and we've got another flex groove across the midfoot there. Tiny bit of exposed midsole there, and that's about it. So that's it for the tech. So how was the first run in the shoe? Well, I weighed the shoe before I went out for my first run. I thought, shall I take it for an easy run or shall I try a moderate run? Obviously at that weight, I tend to use lighter shoes for my moderate runs, but I thought, sod it, it feels really comfortable. I will give it a go and see how it goes. And I really enjoyed it. As I said earlier, it's one of those shoes that doesn't feel like the weight it actually is. The comfort levels are through the roof. I do like them. There's a couple of gripes I have with this shoe, but overall I feel like I've had a positive experience. My first entry into the 880 lineup. So what do I find a little bit frustrating? Obviously the weight, it'd be great if some of the weight could come down. I think the other thing for me is I'd love to have seen this as full fresh foam X. I feel like this dual midsole, this other section, this grey bit here, as I said, is a little bit firmer. Oh, I think that's it feels firmer. It feels firmer, and I feel like it nullifies the rest of it, especially as I'm landing midfoot to forefoot. I feel like there's so much comfort in the back here. This is so squishy. Unlike my 1080 version 10, I loved the full bed of Fresh Foam X. It was super comfy. The Beacon with the original Fresh Foam wasn't a shoe I particularly got on with because I found it too firm. And I just feel like if this was full Fresh Foam, it would have been super, super comfy. But then I suppose that's what the 1080 lineup's for. So I can't have my cake and eat it. I've got to accept that I think the 1080 is like full Fresh Foam, full on comfort, full on soft squish. And this is a little bit more about responsiveness. I think that's what this dual layer midsole is meant to do. Feel like it's a little bit more responsive. I kind of don't really feel like it gives any extra oomph, or it doesn't really particularly add anything to the shoe. So as I said, I'd love to see, like the 880, the description on the website is it is a neutral daily trainer to soak up the miles. It's a bit responsive and it's just going to give you what you need. And I think in my head, the 1080 is like that max cushion, easy day mileage soaker. If this is going to be maybe a step down, I'd love to see it shed a little bit of weight and still use full Fresh Foam X because I love the super cushioness. But if you strip some weight off and got it to in and around 350, 360 grams, that around the Novablast Pegasus weight, that would be absolutely ideal. Sadly though, it's not. As I said, it's another 50 grams on top of that. Now I remember testing my 1080 and I know that shoe was 300 and I think on the top of my head it was like 350, 360 grams. So this is heavier than that. So as I said, the weight is a little bit of a gripe, and as I said, I'd love to see a full bed of Fresh Foam X. But other than that, I've got to say, I'm really thoroughly impressed, A, with the build quality of this shoe, and B, the comfort. As I said, I've been waiting for a new daily trainer for ages. My Novablast are about 10 miles off from being 500 miles. I've just been using them, and you know what those things are like. They're built like a tank. They go and go and go. And I kind of feel like this is going to be similar. It's just going to go and go and go. This shoe is built to last. I feel like even though I've just had one run in it, I feel like it's going to be an absolute mileage hog. It's going to soak everything up and it's going to do everything that you guys and myself would want from it. So although it's not the lightest shoe and although it's not the most exciting shoe, it's certainly going to tick a lot of those boxes. If you're looking for something that's just going to soak up the miles, you're not too worried about weight, but you want something that's super comfy and super plush, then I genuinely would recommend this shoe. There's going to be plenty of other daily trainers that come out this year that are going to be lighter, softer, bouncier, you name it. But if you are, if you like this end of the spectrum, which is a little bit more, I'm trying to think of the right words. If you like something a little bit more reliable, that's just going to get you from A to B, that's in that fine balance of soft squish to firm ride, just sits perfectly in the middle. It's exactly what this does. As I said, a couple of tweaks I would love to see, but I am delighted to be in this range, and I will continue to keep my eye on future updates in the 13, 14, so on and so forth, and see how this model evolves. But for me, positive experience, happy, can't wait to test it out on more runs. I think moving forwards, it's just going to be probably an easy run shoe, and if I'm looking to do an easy long run, I would consider this shoe. Moderate runs, I would probably do another one, but I have other shoes that I would prefer and will gravitate towards over this. So it definitely is going to be like my Friday shoe, which is where I just go and do easy miles. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the 880 version 12. Solid shoe. Like if you had to just pick something reliable that's going to do the job, this is it. In terms of out of 10, I don't really do scales and scores and stuff like that. It's just my initial thoughts and feedback. But straight away, 7 out of 10. Nothing spectacular, but certainly good quality, high cushioning, and durable. Well, I hope it's going to be durable. It certainly feels that way. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to know your thoughts. As I said, have any of you run in the 880 lineup? Let me know how the evolution's been, especially those of you who have tried multiple models and are considering getting this one. It retails for around £130. That's exactly the price I paid for it. Again, I think I'd be happier with like 115, 120. But then having seen some other shoes come out that daily that are like 160, the Nimbus 24's just come out. I would have loved to have tried that, but it's £165. I just can't justify that sort of thing for a daily trainer. I'd love to try it, but for that price, it's so expensive. I just felt like this was a bit more value for money. But that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this update on the 880. stay tuned for mileage updates on this thing. It's going to be getting a lot of use and I'm going to be putting it through its paces. As I said, let me know in the comments below if you've got it, previous models, your thoughts and feedback. Would love to get that discussion going. If you enjoyed today, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Until then.